The war in West Asia is triggering a much larger geopolitical debate, the credibility of American security guarantees. For decades, the United States positioned itself as the ultimate security umbrella for allies across the world, especially in the Gulf. But the recent escalation involving Iran, Israel, and US interests has raised uncomfortable questions about how reliable those guarantees actually are. Iran's ability to strike back despite the presence of US military bases and defense systems across the region has forced several countries to rethink their dependence on Washington for security. From Gulf monarchies to regional partners, there is growing concern about whether the traditional American security umbrella can still offer the protection it once promised. For decades, American military presence in West Asia formed the backbone of the region's security architecture. Countries relied on Washington for deterrence, defense systems, and strategic protection. But the ongoing conflict is exposing the limits of that arrangement. The question now being asked in many capitals is simple. If US security guarantees cannot prevent or deter major attacks in one of the most militarized regions in the world, how reliable are they elsewhere? Let's first understand what the United States security guarantees to the Gulf actually meant. For decades, Washington positioned itself as the primary security provider for several Gulf nations, maintaining a network of military bases, deploying missile defense systems, and ensuring rapid military response to any external threat. The arrangement was built around protecting critical energy infrastructure, safeguarding shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz, and deterring adversaries in the region. In return, Gulf monarchies relied heavily on American military presence, defense partnerships, and advanced weapon systems to ensure their security. But cut to today. These visuals on your screen tell a tale of how Gulf countries that are dependent on US security are paying the price for the war. Across the world, countries are now reassessing their dependence on American military guarantees. In the Gulf, regional powers are quietly reviewing their security arrangements after seeing how vulnerable critical infrastructure can be during conflict. In Europe, the Ukraine war had already triggered debate about strategic autonomy in defense spending. And in Asia, several nations are investing heavily in indigenous defense capabilities rather than relying solely on external security umbrellas. The message emerging from the multiple regions is increasingly clear that national security can no longer be outsourced. For India, the developments unfolding globally reinforce a principle New Delhi has long emphasized, that national security must ultimately rely on countries' own capabilities. The idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense has steadily gained momentum, with a stronger push towards indigenous production, domestic defense manufacturing, and reduced dependence on external security guarantees. Lessons drawn from conflicts ranging from Kargil to wars unfolding today have underlined the importance of strategic self-reliance. As global alliances become more uncertain and traditional security umbrellas face scrutiny, India's model of strengthening indigenous defense capabilities is increasingly being viewed as a template that many nations may now look towards. The developments in West Asia are now raising larger geopolitical questions about the future of global security alliances. Are US security guarantees losing their credibility? Has the current conflict exposed the limits of the American security umbrella that many nations have relied on for decades? Are Gulf countries now reconsidering their dependence on Washington for security? And does this movement signal the end of the era where nations could outsource their defense to a superpower? As countries begin reassessing their security strategies, is the world moving towards greater military self-reliance, and could India's Atmanirbhar approach offer an important template? On this issue, I am joined by Professor Swaran Singh from JNU and Dr. Divina Singh, Assistant Professor, MIT Institute of International Studies. Thank you both of you, but let me straight away go to Professor Swaran Singh. Is this a problem for America, the security guarantees, that the military base will protect the host nation?
Absolutely, Karthikya. Both in his first term and now for last 1 year, Trump has been gradually walking away from all kinds of international arrangements, have been rattling the confidence of his allies. And when we talk about recent strikes on Iran, not only UK, Italy, Germany have shown that kind of reluctance of not joining his campaign directly. But even within the Arab states, there is a clear discomfiture, which is very noticeable, particularly in UAE, which has been the main target of Iran's, I think, over 1,500 drones and 500 missiles that are fired in various countries that host US bases, for example, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Oman, and so on. So fundamentally, we heard the UAE ambassador speaking in United Nations when the UN Security Council was meeting, saying Nothing about alliance security and the United States, but fundamentally calling for an immediate ceasefire, de-escalation, and return to dialogue and so on. And likewise, UAE President also, when he addressed his nation, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, also simply focused on ensuring security of his people at home, saying nothing about his support or solidarity with the Americans. So fundamentally, what all of these states are clearly feeling is need for hedging, and therefore we notice that it's not now, for almost a decade they've been inching closer to Chinese, for example, where again a very close relationship in terms of investment, in terms of trade, has been built over a period of time. I think China has nearly 450 billion worth of trade. They have these annual China Arab Cooperation Forum summit meetings. Likewise, Turkey has become another destination for Arab sovereign fund investments, or Turkey's defense exports drones, particularly to various Arab states. So, in that sense of hedging is driven by the fact that they think there is, increasingly less confidence in American leadership. And now, while striking Iran, there was no consultation. I mean, there was no readiness, and these states were found to be unaware and exposed to Iranian strikes and escalation over a period of time. And I think that is only catapulting and accelerating that whole sense of looking for hedging, looking for alternatives. And definitely, Iranian strikes, as far as Arab states are concerned, has really awakened them. And in fact, Saudi Arabia has been for a long time asking for a military alliance to be put in
Absolutely.
on paper, like US-Japan alliance. Indeed, most of the Gulf monarchies would be happy to get something like that, but within United States there is opposition.
Absolutely.
People in United States have been opposing this. Lindsey Graham, for example, a senior Republican leader, says Arab states contribute nothing to American security, so why should America be making any commitment? So I think increasing rattling and increasing the lack of credibility in terms of a security provider as far as Arab states are concerned.
You see, if we look at the American strategic policy, they are the global policemen because they have footprint everywhere. Whether it's Philippines, whether it's Japan, whether it's West Asia, whether it's Greenland, you have American footprints. You know, Chinese are not there. Even Russians are not there. Americans are everywhere. So let me go across to Dr. Devina Singh. Devina, do you think it's this will make, or this is making the Gulf countries think that Americans have got the base, but they have not functioned for what they were built for? That too, to protect them in times of crisis.
Yes, sir. First of all, happy to share this place with Professor Swaran Singh. Thank you for having me here. And absolutely, I believe that this scenario that has developed in West Asia as of now clearly shows the limitations of US's military strength. Like, even though it boasts its military capacity and has had so many interventions over the years in the region, and has boasted this ability to offer protection and security to the region, has fallen short. And this is becoming more and more evident as this US Iran war progresses, especially because it was supposed to be an immediate action where they were supposed to uh, have an immediate action in the region. It was supposed to be just entering and exiting. However, the strategy has been stretched out, and with unprecedented attacks from Iran itself. So naturally, this does bring to surface the gaps in just one's own military strength and how far that can guarantee security in the region. And I am personally come from the Indo-Pacific side of the academic, so naturally this brings to the table the considerations for security alliances with other states that don't promise, but like that show the idea of less wars and more economic security to stabilize the region per se. So we have the BRI and Belt and Road Initiative that China wishes to implement in the region. And obviously, this may be one of those things that become an alternative for these states in the Middle East, in the West Asian region to look at.
Okay, Professor Swaran Singh, I'll take the closing comment from you. The whole idea was that the American military bases, if you're part of the alliance, will give you some sense of security. But at the level of the concept, not only Trump has destroyed it, but it makes other countries think of parallel security arrangements. Now, the China has not filled the void. You told me on Monday that the China is not going to mimic the American behavior. So then who fills the void? The indigenous arrangements, but they might not be enough. Philippines might not have the wherewithal to push back China. So where is the void getting filled? Because power abhors vacuum.
Absolutely. I think what Arab states have been facing is something we call a resource curse theory. So not only oil has brought a lot of violence and foreign domination, now the fact that they host many of these bases has actually, instead of these bases being their asset, has become a reason why these states have been target of Iranian strikes. And you're right in saying that these bases could not provide any protection when attacks started happening on other destinations like airports or oil fields or gas fields and so on, or the Strait of Hormuz being impacted and their exports are completely standstill as of now. So that again, the fact that they were hosting large number of American bases, big size American bases here, proved to be sort of counterproductive as far as they're concerned. So their strategy, of course, over a period of time is going to be engage other countries in such fashion. They can't be immediately engaging Iranians, but as I said, they are engaging other countries, including India in this sense, in such a fashion that they don't appear to be really extensions of United States, which sometimes they had come to be seen in those lines in that fashion, and
But
therefore becoming target of Iranian strikes. If they gradually begin to distance themselves and engage with other nations as well, and that could perhaps be one way of ensuring that they don't become a direct target of such Iranian strikes in
today
future.
will be the
But the
biggest step.
fact that they are vulnerable is true. I mean, they are definitely vulnerable. They can't be protecting themselves, particularly when they have large number of American bases, which make them target for such strikes.
I mean, say, look at Ukraine. There was a guarantee that the West would intervene. The West did not intervene properly when they have given up the nuclear bombs. And how vulnerable is Ukraine? We all know the territories has been annexed. And today, when Pete Hegseth did the press conference, he said today will be the hardest day of Iran, the biggest day of the bombardment, and today will be the test of all the American bases in Gulf, because Iran will definitely retaliate when the Secretary of War says openly on a press conference that today is the day when we bomb them. And we all know that B-52s have been deployed. And those images are there. They are not B-1s, they are not B-2s. You deploy them when you have total monopoly of the sky. And they are not used for strategic bombing. They are used for general bombing all over an area. I mean to say, if that happens, the war gets scaled up to a very different level. Thank you both of you for joining me.